culture. What culture do we copy? Do you even have culture? If I ask you what's your tribe in Black America, like what's your tribe? Do you even know what that is?
Oh,
Give me 3
Lord.
culture norms that you have or traditions that you do. Nothing. Y'all are gonna tell me the hoop earrings, the hip hop music. They're not like us. You're not like us. What else?
Boy, she keep going back to that song, don't she, family? Our culture lives rent free in her head, but I'm gonna cook her. Just
What do you have? What is your staple food? Nothing. So what culture? What culture?
Okay. Let's break this down, family, because this is one of the number one talking points amongst these tethers, and I kind of just hinted on it, and I showed you they're so culturally relevant over there. Less than 1% of the people on Earth, hell, we're more known on the continent of Africa than they are because our culture runs rampant over there. Okay, our culture runs rampant over there. Let's define, though, before I give you what is Black American culture, and before I give y'all some nuance on how special of a people we are and how special of a culture we created, let's define what culture is. Because what a lot of these disrespectful ass immigrants do, these fleers do, is they try to make this little weird, little specialized definition of what culture is. And notice every time they bring up culture, they just simply talk about their tribe. Okay? But let's look up what culture is. Now, as you can see, I typed in on Google at the top, what is culture? Just basic definition of culture. Okay? That's accumulation of all the sources, all the definitions that people have created over time. I said, what is culture? All right, it gave me 2 definitions. The first, the arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. Okay, and the second one, which is the most common one used as it pertains to what we're talking about, the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group, family. And the example they used was Caribbean culture. All right, that's the definition of what culture is as it pertains to people, a particular fixed nation, an ethnic group, different things like that. All right, so like I said again, they try to make culture this. Every time you start talking about culture, they start talking about their damn tribe. Oh, well, I'm from the Bugandan tribe. Okay, cool, you're from the Bugandan tribe. What are their customs? What are their arts? What are their social institutions that they've created and pioneered? And most importantly, what have your ass achieved? They always stay away from this, family. They just mention their tribe. They just throw their tribe out there like that's culture. The great Ivan Van Sertima once said that it's one thing to say where you were or you were first somewhere, but there's another thing to talk about what you did. Okay? And see, a lot of these African tribes, they sit over here and start talking about they were first in their homeland. We were first. We've been here. Okay, but what have you done? What have you achieved? Why are you culturally relevant, family? So with that being said, what is Black American culture? She was asking it in a very disrespectful tone. What is your culture, nigga? What is your culture? Let me get on the big screen for this. What is Black American culture? Let's start off with our customs or our traditions, because that was the first word that they mentioned in culture. Our customs are rooted in resiliency and unity. Things like when we greet each other, we call it giving each other dap, which means and stood for dignity and pride. DAP, dignity and pride, DAP. That DAP has gone around the world. That started with foundational Black Americans who were over there fighting in wars in Vietnam. And they wanted to show some type of cultural unity because they were in damn near segregated mesh halls. They were being mistreated compared to the white soldiers. So they say, hey, man, we got to have our cultural unity thing. We got to come up with that. Now you see these folks around the world giving handshake, giving different signs of unity. Everything we do is rooted in our survival. Things like playing the dozens, aka joning, aka cracking, aka roasting on each other, that we do from a young age in order to build our mental fortitude. Your mama's so fat, your daddy's so ugly. See, these immigrants, they come over here and they think, oh, you're so mean. No. That's rooted in foundational Black American tradition, because a part of foundational Black American tradition was you have to be mentally tough. Because our ancestors knew, hey, when these folks start talking about you, hey, when these folks start roasting, when these folks start talking about your mama, your sister, your cousin, you can't afford to get emotional and respond back, because you might get the whole Black Wall Street burned down. You did? You might get lynched. You might get your family member lynched. You might get ran out of town. So you have to be mentally tough. So what did we do? We started practicing. We started saying derogatory things about each other to get your mental game up. Okay, get your mental fortitude up. That's where roasting and joning comes from. We carry that tradition to this day. So when they come over here, they're not used to that, because many of them, unfortunately, are mentally broken down and mentally weak. So when we use simple things like African booty scratcher, they start crying and whining about it till they're 40 damn years old. Talking about, man, when I was in school, they called me an African booty scratcher. But that shows that you're mentally weak. You can't handle nothing. But we should have known that, because you're descendant of fleers. But this is part of our customs and traditions. We're baptized in fire. We're baptized in resiliency. You dig? We're brought up to be mentally tough, not just physically tough, but mentally tough as well. Our culture is rooted in unity, is rooted in family. Things like, and concepts like the family reunion was started by foundational Black Americans coming out of enslavement. Family reunion wasn't a thing for these other folks. They didn't have no damn family reunion. Even if you look at these other cultures now, when they leave and flee their homeland, they damn near never go back. They damn near never go back. They ain't seen some of their damn mamas and cousins in 10, 15 years. They might see them on Facebook. They might see them on Instagram. You dig? But we had a culture and tradition of family reunion that, hey, man, once we got out of slavery, we got to get the family back together. That's a cultural tradition that was started by foundational Black Americans. Things like honor and respect. It was foundational Black Americans in South Carolina who created and started Memorial Day, honoring the troops. Let's honor our fallen soldiers. These are some of our customs. These are some of our traditions. Hey, that brother, that sister laid down their lives so we can be here right now today. It was foundational Black Americans, over 10,000 strong in South Carolina, that said, hey, we need to honor these fallen soldiers who are buried in these unmarked graves. And they held a parade. That parade later on morphed into Memorial Day, honoring of the troops. It was foundational Black Americans who honored their ancestors through spiritual practices and systems like hoodoo, okay, which often gets confused with voodoo. That was our spiritual systems that we created. Concepts like Sunday dinner, concepts like soul food. We are people of soul, okay? So we said, hey, man, Sunday dinner, we're going to get around the table and we're going to eat this soul food because it's good for our soul, because we are soul people, okay? That's why we called each other soul man and soul brother at one point in time, because we understand we're people of the soul. One of the purest souls on earth you ever going to meet is foundational Black Americans. We done seen it all, we done done it all, and we still walking with our head held high. And this is just to scratch the surface. Foundational Black American customs and tradition is education, is free education for all. It was foundational Black Americans who, coming out of enslavement, okay, cut their illiteracy rate in half within a span of 30 years, who went from not being able to read, not being able to write, to damn near half of our population being literate in 30 years. It was during that time that foundational Black Americans, especially in the South, gave birth to the free public school system. There was no such thing as free public schools. Everybody had to go to private schools. That's how the Ivy League started. The Ivy Leagues were private schools. You had, school was for the super rich, okay? But it was foundational Black Americans who said, hey, man, coming out of here, we're going to have these freedmen schools, and we're going to educate our babies so that the next generation, they know how to read. They know how to write with the best in the world. And it was white folks who got jealous and said, hell, we need a free public school system. It's these Negroes running circles around my little Timothy who can't read and write, and he's white, okay? We helped give birth to that during the Reconstruction era in the South. So those are just a few of our customs and traditions. But let's go to the next word. We're going to break this down point by point, family. The second word in that definition of what culture was arts. What is our arts? What is Black American culture as it pertains to arts? Oh, well, that's the art form that you couldn't keep out your mouth. That's things like hip hop. But remember, hip hop, they love to try to reduce our culture to hip hop. They not like us. That's your culture. Yeah, that's a piece of our culture that you can't keep out your mouth, even though you're hating on it because of how influential it is. But remember, hip hop is one of the fruits from our musical tree. That ain't nowhere near the stump or the root. See, the root is things like the blues. That's FBA culture. The jazz, country music, funk, rhythm and blues, rock and roll, gospel, and many, many more. All that have impacted and influenced the world, including your music. Remember, the most popular music genre coming out the continent of Africa right now is Afro beats with an S, which is a spinoff of Afro beat that was created by Fela Kuti. Remember where Fela Kuti got it from. Okay, let's go in our receipt bag again. Okay, and this is from a New York Times article that was put out in 1977 called Nigeria's Dissident Superstar, talking about Fela Kuti. And let's scroll down, family. And boy, the ancestors, and boy, it just started raining out of nowhere in Atlanta. That's the ancestors rejoicing for this straightening that we're doing. They're rejoicing for this straightening that we're doing. Now, this is what the New York Times article says. Follow with me now. A flamboyant musician named Fela mixes radical politics with pidgin English in songs so explosive the government has banned his performance. Okay? It goes into his life story. And as you can see, I wasn't lying. It's really raining out here. Really storming out here. You dig? But I'm not going to close the window. I'm going to keep it open because that's the ancestors rejoicing right now. Okay? It says, then he went to England to study at the London School of Music, where he was exposed to American jazz and fell under the spell of Charlie Parker, FBA, Johnny Coltrane, and Miles Davis, FBA brothers. Okay? By combining the bouncy high life and American jazz, he invented Afrobeat, a new sound. All right. You dig? It goes on to say the turning point of his career seems to have come after his visit to the United States in 1969. In San Francisco, he met Sandra Isidore, a young woman on the fringes of the Black Panther movement, who gave him books to read and introduced him to men who were stirring crowds with radical rhetoric. Okay, he got around some of that FBA revolutionary energy. And says, there were long discussions into the dawn about white oppression, colonialism, and revolution. He became politically aware. He got his consciousness from foundational Black Americans, soaking up that game from us. All right. And this is the most powerful statement because she's sitting up here questioning our culture. She's sitting up here what culture do you have, nigga? Oh, ma'am, I'm going to let one of your Africans say it. He said that it was incredible how my head was turned. Everything fell into place, man. Fela says, for the first time, I saw the essence of Blackism, aka Black nationalism. It's crazy in the States. People think Black Power movement drew inspiration from Africa. All these Americans come over here looking for awareness. They don't realize they're the ones who got it over there. He said, while we were even ashamed to go around in national dress until we saw pictures of Blacks wearing dashikis on 125th Street. I'll stop right there. Okay? I'll stop right there. And I didn't even get into our dances that we created. I didn't even get into our arts like the Harlem Renaissance, like graffiti. That's one of the elements of hip hop that was created by foundational Black Americans in Philadelphia by the name of Cornbread. I didn't even get into that. That's light work. Okay? That's our arts, but it's more to the definition of what culture is. It also goes on to say that culture is just social institutions that you built. Okay? We created institutions for higher learning, our own place of education. We call them HBCUs or historically Black colleges. From Lincoln to Howard to FAMU, to Jackson State, to Cheney, and many, many, many more, over 100 of them here in the United States, that not only gave birth to some of our great leaders, but gave birth to some of your revolutionaries, like the Kwame Nkrumahs. Remember, Kwame Nkrumah went to Lincoln University. Kwame Nkrumah was over there in Harlem and places like that on 125th Streets during those college summers, soaking up that game. He took that energy back and became the first independent president of Ghana. Other people like Nnamdi Azikiwe, okay, the first president of Nigeria, who went to Lincoln University and Howard University, okay, got up under foundational Black Americans, took that type of energy back home and became the first president of his damn independent country. You dig? Those are the social institutions that we pioneered and we created, and we made it possible for you to go to. Institutions and organizations that we created, like SNCC, okay, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that helped fight for civil rights. You dig? The NAACP and many, many others, CORE, that helped to fight for our civil rights, so that you can come here, you can tether off of us, and you can get the tangible and benefits that they fought and died for. Those are just a few of our social institutions and organizations. But wait, there is more. Because most importantly, the thing that they are afraid to mention about culture, it says the last thing is achievements. What have you achieved? Oh, I couldn't wait for this one. Oh, let me get right. I couldn't wait for this one. What is Black American culture? They say culture is your achievements. They end it with that. Oh man, what have Black Americans achieved? Number one, our ethnogenesis. We broke the shackles and chains of enslavement. We ended slavery. We fought and won in the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln said on 5 different occasions, we could not have won this war without the Negro. You dig? We freed ourselves. Then after we freed ourselves, we went on to fight and stand on business to get our civil rights. You dig? We won civil rights in this country. And meanwhile, during that time period, while we're stumping, we're breaking the chains of enslavement, we're fighting for our civil rights, we're building Black Wall Streets across this country, not just the one in Tulsa, okay? But from Tulsa to Rosewood, Florida, to Edenville, Florida, to the Villa down in Jacksonville, Florida, to the Ville up in St. Louis, Missouri, to Jackson Ward in Virginia. You dig? To Durham out there in North Carolina, to Auburn Avenue right here where I'm at in Atlanta, Georgia. We built metropolises across this country, Black business centers. We did what y'all can't seem to do in Africa to no consistent scale, even though that you're 99.9% of the damn population where you live. And even after they burned them down, we build them up again. We build them up again, which gave birth to the $1.8 trillion of spending power that we have. What have we achieved? We have masters of inventors that come from our Black American heritage and lineage. People like Garrett Morgan, who created those traffic lights that you see in your homeland, who created the gas mask that's probably part of every fire station in the world. People like Lewis Latimer, who created the filament for the light bulb. People like Maria Van Braun, who created the home security system that you use to lock up your house because you're so afraid of your damn tribe and your homeland. That's why you had to flee. People like Frederick McKinley Jones, who revolutionized the food industry with his first refrigerated truck so that your food can stay cold from one destination to another, so you can have that bush meat on time in Sweden. Sisters like Gladys Mae West, who helped invent GPS so you can get from one destination to another flawlessly. And many, many others, family. Put some of our inventors in the comment section. They rejoice when you do that. Put some of our inventors. I can go on and on and on. So when you speak on what is Black American culture, all you got to know is it's the premier culture. And I'm going to say this right now, and I don't care how people feel about it. It's only one culture in history that can maybe give us a run for our money as foundational Black Americans. Only one, and that's the ancient Egyptians. That's the only culture who can maybe give us a run for our money. Other than that, we wash all of y'all culture. If you want to play this game of culturalist, if you want to play that game, we wash everybody's culture. You dig? Because all we've done is achieve, innovate, and keep our head up high and keep our moral dignity and principles in doing it. You dig? We are the culture. We are Black Americans. But let's continue back to the video.